like let's say BlackRock or like any of these like level institutions want to get involved in DeFi, like would they really trust a bridge, like a trust me bro bridge, which has like a multi sig at the end of the day, or like would they rather use a bridge that relies on the consensus of both chains that are interoperating?
I think last time we met in Gateway last year, almost a year ago, I guess, and you were still like the only non-engineer on your team. Was that right?
Probably, like at that time, yeah, we were pretty short staffed on the non engineering side. Yeah, we have more non engineers now.
Yeah, but you were like very heavily like building, right? Like lots of engineers and have been building for a while. Like when was Composable started actually?
So we started in 2021. We had a Vault strategy product. We also had a POC of an EVM bridge based on optimistic design. And then we sort of went for building sort of the base layer for infrastructure in Kusama and Polkadot as the first IBC connection that we plan to expand to. And now we're at that stage where we're almost launching new connections on Ethereum and Solana. But
Awesome. So you basically built it like an IBC layer on Polkadot first, right?
yeah. So Polkadot sort of had the infrastructure to support IBC out of the box in a way. Like their tech is it it has its own benefits. I think they were ahead of its time, and I think they still are ahead of its time. But they just haven't reached the adoption that other ecosystems are getting on a user level.
Hmm. Why is that, you think?
I don't know. There's a few things, right? That like the community are doing very well to sort of boost the user experience in the Polkadot ecosystem. When they launched, they didn't prioritize that, and I think that's what caused a lot of failure. Also, just there's a lot of politics as well. Like I don't like mentioning stuff like bad about an ecosystem, especially one that we work on. But I think they have a strong community, and I don't think they will ever die. They'll just keep building, and I wish them the best of luck. Like I mean, we're building there as well, so in a way,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's great. Like, but for you, it's probably like you're more agnostic, right? Because
yeah,
what you're building at Composable now, so you have a Parrot chain, you have a Cosmos chain, and you're basically building an IBC layer across all layer ones. Is that right?
that's correct. That's it. Exactly, yeah. Sort of the IBC hub for IBC connections outside of Cosmos.
Awesome. And yeah, maybe you can give like a high level intro to like what Composable actually is. Like how does it work? What does it do? Which problems does it solve? Yeah.
So composable can be split into like two big things, Picasso and Mantis. I think for this call we should maybe like focus on Picasso just because Mantis is still a work in progress. So Picasso,
Mantis is the app where you can restake, right? Oh.
yeah. So Mantis is like what we want for like a whole super app of all DeFi activity that you could do in intents and also like just optimizing cross domain order flow for layer ones. It's a lot of work, and we have a lot of researchers who are diving into this as we speak. But it's going to be huge for sure. Like we see chains adopting this in like later this year. I'd say H2. But Picasso right now is where we are sort of building out IBC to new ecosystems. So Picasso is like a layer one Cosmos SDK chain, and it has a connection to Polkadot ecosystem. We're also launching IBC on Solana later next month, which is also going to be connected to Picasso, and IBC on Ethereum as well in a similar timeline. So Picasso just sort of acts as a hub between all of these new IBC connections outside of Cosmos to existing IBC chains, and also like these new chains connecting to each other. So like Ethereum and Solana, this should also go through Picasso.
Awesome. So you're building the multi-chain IBC layer, and then you're also doing a restaking on Solana with Picasso, right? How does that fit in with everything?
Yeah, so restaking is something we've been thinking about for a while. Inspired by Eigenlayer, they're sort of building out on the Ethereum ecosystem. But if you believe in a future that's not just ETH and EVM, which we do, We see restaking as a benefit to the liquid staking ecosystem outside of Ethereum, especially like Solana, which is where we're starting off. But beyond Solana, we can move to like Cosmos assets like Atom, Osmo, TIA, DYDX. There's just a lot of untapped liquidity there for their LSTs. It's essentially taking a yield bearing asset like ST Atom, which is already earning, let's say, like 10%. And then you can just provide this as security to an AVS who wants to use ST Atom's value for their service. So it's maybe like another. Actually, I'm not going to put a figure to an additional APY, but it's just an additional APY to the 10% that you're already earning with your ST Atom. So,
Yeah,
so
from securing other networks or like lending your security. And then
yeah.
how does that like technically work? Are like if someone wants to restake their ST Sol or something, or
Mhm.
like LST Sols, they would deposit them
Yeah.
through the Mantis
So
app.
what we have is we're launching vaults on every different. So like on Cosmos would launch a vault on Picasso, but on Solana we have a restaking vault there for our future IBC connections. Like let's say BNB chain or Tron, like would have a restaking vault on those chains, and essentially users would just need to deposit their LSTs on the restaking vault on their chain, and then it would send messages from that chain to Picasso, which would have the generalized restaking layer, and it would essentially be accounting between these different vaults, right? So let's say I have this much value locked up on Solana, 100 ST Sol. So this would remain on the vault, and then a message would be sent to the restaking layer on Picasso saying that 100 Sol is here and it can be used for security. So AVSs
So it's a
have the opportunity.
smart contract on Solana,
Yeah, yeah. So the restaking vault is
similar to the Eigenpot on Ethereum, that's then connected to the validator running on the Cosmos chain.
that is something different. That is like the Eigenpod thing is like native restaking, which is something interesting, and we're looking into for Solana, and that would we believe increase the TVL by magnitudes if we are able to accomplish that. But it's essentially you could just think of it as like the simple way to think of it is just like you have vaults deployed in different places, and for the average user they can deposit their LST here and they can get more yield on their LST. So the only sort of downsides would be slashing, but like slashing is set by the AVS and you just have to do your research when choosing an operator of the AVS to not misbehave.
Okay, yeah. So you restake your LSTs on Solana, and they are connected to the AVSs.
Mhm.
And then would you be able to select which AVSs you want to secure, basically? And these AVSs could be anywhere on any chain, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly,
Wouldn't
exactly.
have to be on Solana, right?
Exactly. So the AVSs have the choice of which assets they want to accept as security. So let's say like we have like a few months from now, our generalized restaking layer is live. We have liquidity, ETH LSTs, Solana LSTs, Cosmos LSTs. An AVS can go there and say, oh, I want my roll up to be secured by STTIA and ST Sol. And then they will just bid for that liquidity to be secured. And then also operators also have a choice of choosing which AVS they want to go to. So at the end of the day, AVSs won't be able to get their security unless it is also accepted by the delegator. So let's say I'm about to deposit into a vault and select an AVS. I have to see all the conditions that the AVS sets, and if I agree with it, then they can use my liquidity as security. So it's
And then
very
how is that connected to the validators on the Picasso chain then?
So, I mean, validators on the Picasso chain have the option to join as operators. The main thing about the relationship between the restaking layer and our Cosmos chain is like number one, the main contracts are deployed there, and 20% of fees are distributed to stakers of the Picasso chain from the restaking layer.
All right, that's from like the generalized restaking layer across different chain, also on Solana.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, exactly. So 20%
yeah.
of fees would be distributed there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean that makes a very compelling case for the Pika token then, right?
Yeah, I mean that's we already have that live with IBC, so it does make a compelling case to stake your Pico for sure. We've seen a lot of like narratives recently in the space when Uniswap launched their proposal to do fee distribution, and fee distribution is something we've always had in mind, just because it's like unsustainable to just keep giving out yield to stakers out of thin air. So essentially, for securing the Picasso L1, you'll get yield from IBC fees and also restaking fees on Picasso. So yeah.
Nice. And that's 20%. Like, how about the other 80% of the fees from the
So
restaking? Where do they go?
20% would go to, for IBC or for restaking, you're asking?
For restaking,
Okay.
yeah.
For
Because
restake,
the validators on the Cosmos chain, they are earning 20% of the generalized restaking fees
yeah,
accrued across all chains, right?
exactly, yeah. And then also 40% is distributed to the actual restakers, and then the remaining is just distributed for operational costs.
All right. That makes sense. And like, how would the slashing work on? So imagine someone deposits their ST Sol,
Mhm.
whatever B Sol or anything on the vault in Solana. How can it get slashed?
So you could think of these like, so like the AVSs. The first AVS that's going live is an AVS for Solana IBC. So this is a guest chain inside of Solana that we're building. So think of this as like a blockchain, right? Validators can self stake if they want to, but when we launch, the validators of this guest chain will be delegated stake from the Solana restaking layer. So we have to sort of have slashing on the chain just to avoid, like, we have to punish misbehavior if there ever is. And you could think of slashing as just think of the LSTs that are backing the chain as like the native token. And so any sort of slashed amount will just be sent to the community pool on Picasso. Yeah, so the slash funds get sent to it's distributed between the fishermen and also validate to the community pool on Picasso. So the fishermen are basically operators who sort of monitor they're actors who monitor the operators to ensure that they don't misbehave, and if they do, then they need to be slashed. So if they catch an operator misbehaving, they'll be slashed and they will get rewarded part of that slash.
Yeah.
It might
But
be
if like all the slashed LSTs go to this like composable community fund or Picasso community fund, isn't Picasso incentivized that a lot of like tokens get slashed
no,
because it's
no.
better for the network,
it's
right?
just it's just an avenue for where to go, right? Again, this could be changed via governance when we launch, but like it's split between fishermen who like monitor the operators to ensure that they don't misbehave. So the fishermen are like separate to the community pool, and also if the fishermen are like more rewards, then it would probably be sent to the community pool. But hopefully, like we don't expect slashing to happen, so it's just a rare case, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then, but that basically allows like any AVS to also basically use Solana LSTs as security. So
Yeah,
it's an alternative to like using EigenLayer on Ethereum, using like Ethereum native restaking, right? Another option is like as an AVS, you can choose to like secure your chain with Solana LSTs.
yeah, exactly. And also, not just Solana, like every other IBC enabled chain that we go to. So we would look to set up a restaking layer there. I actually don't know what's like the top 10 chains that have the most staked amount. Maybe you'd be more proficient on that part. But
Yeah, you
um,
can go on stakemods.com and see like the top 10. It's obviously like, yeah, Ethereum, Solana, Sui, Cardano, Avalanche, BNB, Aptos, Celestia, Polkadot, and Tron.
yeah, no, Sui is definitely an interesting one. That would be pretty interesting to connect IBC to.
And the great thing about Composable, because you basically solve the problem of prior to Composable, like Solana was not really IBC composable, right? So that's the problem that you solved, isn't it?
I mean, just a lot of community members and even users in DeFi come to our Discord and they always like complain about bridging to Solana. They haven't really had a great experience. Like one of our CMs Last month, I asked them to like test the actual Solana connection for Wormhole, and like his funds have been stuck for like the past 10 days. With IBC, we don't have to trust any sort of third party or intermediary. We're literally just trusting the consensus of both chains. So
IBC is amazing,
it's
and it's probably going to be like the main interoperable layer across all chains.
Yeah, I mean, I
Anyway,
think so. I think so. Like a lot of non-IBC bridges are planned to go live, which also like rely on trust, minimize architecture, or even light clients. But with us, it's like, why would you reinvent the wheel for IBC that's been working since 2021 and hasn't really led to any vulnerabilities that have led to a major hack, right? It's not perfect for sure, but like it can be improved upon, and a lot of people use it, and it's currently even being improved in terms of user experience. We can work to improve the developer experience of it over time as well.
so basically, you are abstracting away the differences between chains through IBC, and then on top of that, you are abstracting away the differences between the economic models or like the security models of each chain through the restaking layer as well, and
Yeah.
that is enabled through the IBC layer.
So the actual chain abstraction part happens with Mantis. I know we weren't going to touch upon that, but it's like once you have IBC between, let's say, Osmosis and Solana, right? And all these like coins are going wild on Solana, but you have your funds on Osmosis, or vice versa. You want to tap into Cosmos liquidity, and all of that is based on osmosis, a large chunk of it, you could say. So if somebody's on Solana and they don't want to necessarily bridge to osmosis and make the transaction, and vice versa, if somebody's on Cosmos and they don't want to bridge to Solana and make that swap on Radium for Slurf, you know, they could just use the Mantis app, which we plan to have these cross chain swaps over IBC, and it would could be done via intent or also via the standard swap UIs that you face. So the chain abstraction part is definitely our goal. We want users to go to use Mantis and just swap anything they want, anywhere they want, using any asset they want. IBC fundamentally allows that if you have that as the infrastructure layer. So we're also building upon that with Mantis.
So Mantis is like you see that as the main interface, how people will interact with composable or like with blockchains in general.
Yeah, I mean that's the end goal, right? We want users to come in, log in with an email and password, or log in with their phone number at the end of the day, or just have like the Mantis app on your mobile and carry out all these DeFi activities in a simple way. And this is what we want to do with Mantis. It's going to be start with IBC restaking and cross chain swaps, but this will also expand to lending, liquidity providing, and more. So,
Nice.
yeah,
So Mantis is also a wallet.
yeah, absolutely. It sort of encompasses a virtual wallet inside because, like, let's say you want to do cross chain transactions between a chain where you don't even have a wallet, right? How could you do that in a decentralized way? So that's what something we're
Yeah, but
working
that's
on.
the most annoying part, right? You
Yeah,
need like multiple wallets from multiple chains, and then
yeah,
it's a pain.
exactly. That's something we're working on as well.
That's exciting. What can you do today? So I have like a lot of kind of Solana LSTs, right?
Hmm.
And I can restake them already, and I
Yeah,
can earn extra
so
rewards. So
we
yeah.
launched a team restaking competition, I believe, early February, and this is just to bootstrap the TVL of the restaking layer because for Solana IBC to go live, we need like value to secure it. So right now, if you have Solana LSTs, you can go to games.mantis.app and take part in the restaking layer. You can try join some of the teams, and the winning team receives 80% of the bridging fees that is distributed to operational costs, I believe. Yeah. So the
Mm.
winning team will receive 80% of that. You'll also receive.
What winning team? Like what game do you
So
have to win?
it's just the team that has the most restaked amount. So
But who's in a team? Like what makes up a team?
we launched Mantis NFTs in January, and if you wanted to be a team leader, you would have to buy this NFT, and then you can create your team on the Mantis UI. We have already 63 teams over 5,000 different participants that are just part of these teams, and they're all competing to be number one to receive bridging revenue from the first month.
Ah, nice. So basically, with my restaked LST on Solana, I can bet on the winning team, and if the team that I bet on wins, I also win the restaking fees,
The IBC fees for the first month.
the IBC fees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
right.
also like we've allocated 35 million of Pika as rewards to all of these restakers. So this will also go live once we launch the Solana connection. There's also Blaze incentives as well. So Blaze is like a Soul Blaze is an LST on Solana. So if you deposit B Soul, you're eligible for B Soul incentives as well as Pika.
And then if you want to run a validator, you can do that like on the Cosmos chain. Can you also do that on a Para chain on Polkadot actually? Or
In parachain world, it's a bit different. They have like collators, basically validators, but you can join as a collator on Picasso. It's all via governance. You can also join via the Cosmos chain. So on our Cosmos chain, we're actually releasing a delegation program soon. Initially, when we launched the chain last year, we had an incentivized testnet, and most of the validators on our chain are based on the performance and evaluation of validators who scored well in the testnet. Since then, we haven't really had an official delegation program to like monitor validators in the set. Now we have a process where every 6 months we would evaluate who would be the most performing validators and anyone underperforming, and increase delegation based on that, and even reduce
how
delegation.
many validators? What's the maximum?
We have 48 right now, but we plan to expand this later in the year. If you're
Cool.
also a validator, you can join the AVS testnet for Solana IBC. So we have the guest chain running on Solana mainnet right now with only a few validators, but we're onboarding the rest on probably next week. If
Awesome.
you are an existing Solana validator, this would apply to you just because we require Solana validators to use like a custom RPC in the setup of the guest chain.
Oh, so the Solana validators can opt in to the ABSs then,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and that's native free staking then.
No, that's what we are working on.
But how would that work? So
So
the
the Solana
Solana valid
validators would just need to onboard. If you're an
yeah
existing Solana validator, you can join the testnet mainly because we are taking their infrastructure, and they would have to like run a sidecar to generate state proofs and support Solana IBC. So if you're an existing Solana validator, you just have to spin up another machine, which is like very lightweight. It doesn't have the same hardware requirements as Solana validators do. So yeah, we're onboarding, and if you'd like to join the restaking layer on Solana, let us know on Discord. We've also posted a Google form on Twitter as well.
awesome. Yeah, that's great. There's obviously a lot of Solana validators. I think 1,400 or something, even more maybe.
Yeah, there's
Um,
insane.
a lot of them are like part of the verified staking provider program from Staking Wars as well.
Nice. Did you
Yeah.
go to Breakpoint or in last year?
No, I haven't been actually. It was in Amsterdam last year, right?
Yeah, yeah. I highly recommend that you go to. To be honest, it's like probably one of the most interesting conferences I went to last year. Probably the most, I'd say.
What was the biggest takeaway for you there?
There's quite a few things, right? One thing is, I'd say the general crypto space still doesn't like they can't comprehend how much adoption Solana has gained. I'd say,
It's insane. Yeah.
yeah, they are ahead of time. Where in the sense, like I'm just walking around and I see someone from the U.S. House of Representatives just there, like, what are you doing at a crypto conference? You know,
Did, did you ever try the Solana phone actually?
I haven't. No, no. One of our colleagues has. He said it's a bit buggy, but it
Ah,
works.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted to try this. Maybe last question, like how do you see the whole blockchain? What's the end game for blockchains? Obviously with IBC, is it like kind of everything is moving in the background and then it's just kind of IBC, it doesn't matter which chain. So do you think it will consolidate to some chains
I think it'll
after
be.
all? Or
Yeah, I think it would be the first thing you mentioned about chain abstraction. The end game is users coming in using DeFi applications, irrespective of what chains they live on. I think DeFi will live on many different chains, and I think Solana is definitely underrated in that sense, and the DeFi space is growing there. I mean, just nobody will care really that IBC is being used, but it's a necessary part of chain abstraction. Just because if we want like mass adoption, if we want even institutional adoption, right, we can't rely on like, let's say BlackRock or like any of these like level institutions want to get involved in DeFi. Would they really trust a bridge, like a trust me bro bridge, which has like a multi sig at the end of the day? Or like would they rather use a bridge that relies on the consensus of both chains that are interoperating? So yeah, I mean, in terms of bridging sense, you can make up your mind easily that IBC is definitely the winner, and chain abstraction, Mantis will thrive.
If like the user doesn't care anymore about which blockchain, like there's no kind of benefit of doing one blockchain versus the other, then it's just gonna kind of consolidate to the cheapest chain, right? Because the user just gonna, like, if there's no other considerations as play, you're just gonna choose the cheapest chain for everything that you do, right? And then
Well, yeah, in a way, but like there's also the offerings that the other chains have, right? Let's say they go for the cheapest chain, but what if like there's a better opportunity on the more expensive one to operate on? Are you talking about cheapest in terms of like gas fees or cheapest in terms
yeah,
of
I mean in gas fees, yeah, I was
gas?
just wondering like if there's kind of, if the user doesn't
I,
has all the opportunities on all the chains, then he's just going to choose the cheapest one, and then it's going to lead to centralization bit by bit,
yeah, I
kind
don't
of.
know. I'm a bit on two sides on that point. I do think like if you're using a service, especially a financial service, the user shouldn't care too much if they're paying a lot of gas fees. I'm not saying like the user should pay like $50 plus for a transaction, but let's say you're doing a transaction of like four, five, 6 figures, right? Or even 7 figures. You shouldn't care if one chain is less than $1 versus 20 or 10, $20, right? I think the chain with the most security, decentralization, and interoperability will win if there were to be that sort of narrative of one chain gains everything.
Right. But interoperability doesn't matter if Composable can make anything interoperable, right?
That's true. But we can't make everything interoperable. Maybe Bitcoin
What
IBC.
what what can you not make interoperable? Like, wouldn't
Um,
it work theoretically for every chain, or?
I mean, theoretically, yes. Like if chains add changes with restaking, it's possible. But like proof of work, for example, Bitcoin IBC. This is something we've been thinking about for a long time, and it's a tough space, but our research team is like working on it, and maybe it's not impossible. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's technology, right? Nothing
Yeah,
is impossible,
exactly.
just not figured out yet. Yeah, but I mean, IBC on Bitcoin would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of untapped liquidity. Bitcoin L2s are something we haven't really had before. It's definitely interesting.
But that would be a requirement, right? If you wanna, let's say you would want to enable BTC restaking, then it needs to be connected to IBC, right? For you guys.
For us, yeah, in a way, yeah.
Because IBC is kind of the foundation, and then you build restaking on top of
hmm
that.
we were thinking about like doing a wrap, accepting wrap BTC onto the restaking layer, but
And that would be on Ethereum?
so the restaking layer that we have, it's also open to assets that aren't just LSTs. We're looking to accept receipt tokens from DeFi protocols. So let's say you have like an LP token on a DEX, right? So here it's just like again value that's being used to earn fees from swaps. But how could you reuse this value the same way you can with an LST? So let's say I go and LP and a Sol LST, right, with USDC or a Sol LST with Sol. How can I reuse this stake and earn more value from providing liquidity on the DEX? What if you could? provide this liquidity to a restaking layer. So yeah, like the wrap BTC part was just, Osmosis now has native wrap BTC. So what if you accept wrap BTC, USDC on the restaking layer?
But that's all like kind of trusted BTC,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's
That's
why
the problem.
we didn't go ahead with it.
Yeah, I mean, Jaffa, it's been a pleasure. Great conversation. Always
Likewise,
enjoy chatting, and looking forward to what's coming.
likewise. Thank you for the call and thank you for having me. See you soon.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you very much.